All right, this is Randalicious, and I'm going to be reviewing the Q&A that took place on March 12th, 2020. With this, I'm going to be scoring the mods individually, and the scores are not really based on anything at all, whether, if I like what they're saying and I like what they're doing, they're going to get a point. This is just for fun, so let's get into it.
Welcome everyone to the weekly Q&A live stream. I'm your host, Mod Acorn, and with me I've got Mod West,
Hey.
Mod Husky,
Here.
Mod Sween,
Hello.
Mod Ed, and Mod Lenny.
Hello.
Rare appearances from you two?
Yeah, a little bit. And yourself?
Yes. Don't worry, if you hate me, Sween will be your new host. Don't worry. So I've also got Bruno on chat.
He's waving.
He's waving. So let's start with some announcements. We've got the Darkmire poll results. They are live. If you haven't viewed them, go for it. Into the live game, you can see them on the poll booths or on the website. But everything passed, so no surprises. With a milestone. Was it the highest rated yes for a quest?
Dragon Slayer 2 still has that.
Okay. What's the percentage we've got to beat for that?
97 or something.
6, I think, something like that. It was high. It's got close. I think this is the closest we've got with a quest since.
I think it's also the closest a piece of content has got to matching the quest. Dark Graceful was so close to surpassing the quest itself.
Well, Dark Graceful, to be honest, the only reason the quest was voted so high is so they could also vote for Dark Graceful, let's be honest.
Definitely.
Okay. We also have the Gillinor Gazette. If you haven't seen it, we've posted it on our website. It's a monthly blog that releases what we're doing, whether it's future upcoming projects, which includes Clans and Group Ironman. It also discusses our ideation days, our vision for PvP, and our roadmap. We also heavily feature a new prototype that came.
So the Gillinor Gazette, I really like that. They used to do back when Ronin this was many years ago. They would have like the month ahead posts, and I really liked those. And they eventually kind of fell away as it, became something that I don't know. I guess wasn't prioritized, but I like that they're putting more effort into stuff like that. Great reads. Appreciate all of that.
Came out of the ideation day, which is Soul Wars.
Ooh.
Huh?
Okay, so Soul Wars, I don't have a great understanding of it, but looks like it's like a mini game where you kill like each team has like a big boss that they're defending and then trying to beat the other teams. I don't know, but the rewards from it were what people were mainly after. I think that it would probably pass, but I think that it is probably going to be pretty reward dependent on what goes on with it. Yeah. So like PvP, like the PvP part of it, I think there's some good potential with it. I like a lot of what they did. So they talked about the PvP roadmap, and I was a big fan of most of the things that they are doing there. Include like some of the things that I like most about it, and this is from a ignorant and unbiased stance on it. Is I like the idea of removing the PvP worlds. I understand that some people don't, but they're not needed. I also like the idea of restricting wilderness to only certain worlds. So like their goal is to push people into the wilderness, and I like that. They have a clear goal for what it is that they're trying to do. It's not like they're trying to do anything blindly or without plan. So I really like that. Q&A.
We've got
The energy.
Yeah, you're not really excited about it. We've got a few commands that you could use in the chat. If you want to send any questions, hit !questions. And we've also got the Gazette is there as well for !Gazette. Should we dive into some questions?
No.
No.
No, we're gonna dive into some questions. Let's start with the Mortonia expansion. We have a new quest, Sins of the Father, and it brings a new flail. But we haven't really said what that flail does or how good it actually is. Can you give us some insight onto what it is, how good it is, and is it only really good against vampires?
Yeah, so it's the Evandis Fail +1 basically. Like, I think it's quite good having weapons like that, especially from this kind of content that are only really useful against certain things. So yeah, it's following that same format where it's an alright weapon, but when used against vampires, that's when it becomes really good.
So we mentioned kind of briefly in the Darkmire results about Dark Graceful. Over the weekend, we showed a Twitter post of the Dark Graceful. I think it was you going like this. Yeah,
about
yeah,
right.
that sounds about right.
That's my Saturday night.
That's your
usually.
Saturday.
Hey, let's make Graceful great again. I think that they should also add in, on top of the Black Graceful, let's get the original Graceful as well. It failed to pull many years ago, sadly, but it's just so awesome. Make Graceful great again.
However, players feel that it doesn't look as dark as it could be. Can we make it darker?
I believe Mod Rai pointed out on Twitter that on standard brightness settings, it is as dark as people were first expecting it to be. And the screenshot more recently posted was on a higher brightness setting. So we can't make it that much darker. We could a little bit, but it would start to look a little bit...
So it's as dark as your brightness settings will go. If you turn your monitor off, there you go.
Are you
Ed
basically
gets
saying that
points for that.
Sweden is the only person that plays on the highest bright mode setting?
I don't believe that's the case.
I play on like the brightest screen settings. I don't know about you guys. I mean, like, there's the dark one. I don't like that. I like the blind me. And you got all these different settings. I use the highest setting. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, come on.
You're killing your
It
eyes.
looks good.
Yeah. I mean,
Low alpha.
it is just the case. We haven't changed it since we originally showed it, the concepts. It's just that's what we calibrate all the brightness to in the game.
Yeah, those are the same models that were shown in the blog, which I think people were comparing it to, and they were saying, "Oh, you've made it much lighter than the blog." Like, no, it's the same one, so it's just different brightnesses.
I think that we have done. We've pulled a gambit, and it looks like the broadcast we sent says weekly queue. We've missed the A's. We're lacking answers again.
That is correct.
Should we just not give any answers?
Job on
for
Sween
everyone?
pointing it
Keep
out.
asking questions, and we'll just be like,
Tune in for the answers next week. You know?
Tune in for the answers next week.
Okay, we'll have some words with Mod JD. Thanks for helping, by the way.
At
We do
least-
appreciate the broadcast.
At least you tried.
Oh yeah.
So we'll go on to the next question. We've introduced the Hallowed Sepulchre, which includes an agility style course, is what the player has said. It's far more than just
it's a
course.
mini game. It's not just an
Agility mini game.
But can we get some information on some juicy XP rates related to that?
Sure. So there's a very good reason why XP rates weren't released in the blog, and it wasn't just because we want it to be like 200k XP an hour and sneak it past a poll. It's nothing like that. It's that we're still working on implementing it, and the difficulty of the minigame itself is going to be really hard to judge until we ourselves start playing it, right? And I feel like the XP rates should match the effort required. Most people are going to compare this to RD and Prif, which are relatively low effort. You can actually get better XP rates from like the Werewolf course and Brimhaven, but nobody does those. Like, I think they're only like 5 to 10k more depending on how click intensive you are. They're just not enjoyable to do. So the question is, if they're not doing those already click intensive things, are they going to do a more click intensive thing that also gives about 75k? So if it was as hard to do as the Inferno, for example.
Well, so I counter with that saying, people don't do Werewolf because it actually costs money to train as well. Whereas, so obviously I'm doing RD, so look at me, I'm the perfect example to give some poor or good feedback here. People don't do those because you get, the only thing you get out of it is XP. Like if you're doing Brim, you only get XP. If you're doing Werewolf, you only get XP. Whereas with like Artie, you do that, you're making like over 200k GP an hour, which I know is not great, but you're getting some money from doing Arty. For Prif, you're getting the same rates and you're getting shards, which can be used on other skills, which give you XP. And oops, shit! I just gave Ed 3 points on accident. So like people with werewolf course, you have to spend money on stamina. And that's it. With Brim, you spend money. I'm sorry, you don't get anything out of it other than XP. Whereas Prif, you get shards, which increase your XP per hour on other skills, and Arty, you get GP from it. So I know that you make money from doing this, so I feel like having it being the same XP rates or very similar to Arty and Prif, but to make it what would appear to be decent money making would be the best route to go with it. Say you make like 1 mil or 1.5 mil an hour doing this agility method, give it similar rates to Prif and Arty, and give it a GP. And then that way, with all the money that you can make from that, that's what will incentivize players to do it. Also, you're with giving them Black Graceful as something, that's making people want to go there as well. Completionists or people who just prefer the Black Graceful. Hell, if they put the original Graceful there, I would actually do it just to get that Graceful, regardless of what the rates actually are. So, with that, like, come on. I don't think that the XP rates need to be ridiculous. They certainly don't need to be like, if it's over 75k an hour, I think we got a problem. In my opinion, I think that it should scale towards the money side, not the XP side, because there's no actual way of making money right now with agility. And yeah, that's the way I would go.
People wouldn't do it unless it was like worth 100k XP an hour. But if it's as hard as the Inferno, we should probably not make it as hard as the Inferno, because that would be a bit ridiculous for a minigame. So that's kind of where we sit on that. We're going to adjust the XP rates after play testing it
75k
and sort of figure out, because we don't want it to become dead content where people essentially just do it for the rewards and then, I'll just go back to RD for my...
Well, it's not dead content if they do it for the rewards and then leave. Like, something doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be the thing that's always being trained. Like, people do fishing trawler to get the outfit, and that's a very successful mini game because of the rewards from it. The method itself doesn't also have to be incredible, in my opinion.
60 odd K XP an hour. So it's just a kind of work in progress, and naturally, if we release it and it's a bit too powerful, we'll probably just nerf it within the next week or so once we see how fast players are actually completing it, because you guys are quite often much better at it than us, considering we work full-time.
Hey, is that a shot at my Neats out there? He's getting 2 points for that one. Let's see, let's hear that again.
Often much better within the next week or so once we see how fast players are actually completing it.
Oops, I gave those points to Sweet
you guys
on
are
accident.
quite often much better at it than us, considering we work full-time.
Dude, that's a shot right at the Neats.
You guys are quite often much better at it than us, considering we work full-time.
He's getting 2 more. He's getting...
Are you suggesting that they do not work full-time? Are you suggesting that all they do is play RuneScape all day?
I'm suggesting
He
that
gets
the people
4
who are going to be
points.
really good at the course perhaps either play the game for a living full-time or at uni.
Let's just keep it now.
Fuck yeah! Destroyed.
They can test it a lot more rapidly.
Let's just move on before we dig Husky into a deeper hole.
Take the spade off of him.
We've also recently announced the new Essence Mine. Can you give us some info about the XP rates there?
Okay, we said in the blog, what was it? The Essence itself is 150%, but obviously there's the mining time you have to take into account. So it actually ends up working out at most places. It's a little bit less XP, but there's a few places like ZMI where it is really quite nice. Because a thing like that, because you have to gather the essence yourself, it's all about how much you're using per hour. And any activity where you're using fewer per hour but getting more XP, it's going to be more beneficial for, because you have to spend less time gathering it. So
I like the
Zenimax, like the main
explanation.
place, it works out quite nicely. It's not going to replace Lavas though for the people that Mod Husky was just talking about.
Oh, fuck! They are taking shots! 2 more points for fucking Ed.
Those people.
Jesus!
Will it have a better runecrafting pet odds overall? No. Easy answer there.
Oh my god.
So, moving on towards some of the other content within Mortonia, we recently released the Nightmare.
Did we?
Yeah, we did. Did you not? No? Okay.
What's that?
If you haven't seen her, she's in Sleep. But players are asking whether or not we could get the scaling changed to account for the fact that 5-man teams are really hard to find now.
No.
Find
But-
a team, is that your answer?
But we are still like looking over the rewards and stuff, like the drop table and
I
whatnot.
can't believe
and
they
we're
took
hoping
2
to make more
shots
changes there soon, so that
at
could
the
potentially make
Neats.
it easier to find a 5-man team.
We've introduced the hard mode, Nightmare. It's temporary for Sonia's challenge. Are we interested, or what are our thoughts on adding a challenge mode, Theatre of Blood, to the Mortonia area?
I think we'd all love to. Like, whenever we talk about it, it's like, yeah, we really want to do this, but just making sure we get it right. Like, I hope nobody hates me for saying this, but I don't really think that Chambers of Xeric challenge mode is maybe what we should look to when it comes to that sort of thing. Like, I don't think we quite got it right there.
So you want to
Yeah, I agree. I think it's about managing player expectations of what challenge mode actually entails. Is it just stat padding, like, okay, they hit harder and they have more health, or are there bespoke mechanics that players want, or different opportunities of getting different rewards, that kind of stuff?
The one thing I do think Chambers did reasonably okay was that it's not just the best way to get the uniques. It doesn't make Chambers obsolete. You kind of do it to get the dust and the pet, and you still have a reasonable chance at the uniques.
I need to hear him say that again.
Reasonably okay.
Rewards, that kind of stuff.
The one thing I do think Chambers did reasonably okay was that it's not just
Hold on, he's wearing a Budweiser shirt. Look at that. Hold on. Look at that. I didn't notice he's wearing a Budweiser. Oh, that's fantastic. You know what? Like, he gets another point just for wearing a beer shirt. God bless. Oh man, all right.
the best. I do think Chambers did reasonably okay was that it's not just the best way to get the uniques. It doesn't make Chambers obsolete. You kind of do it to get the dust and the pet.
So he says it doesn't. So let me take his words that he had used on the agility thing before. He said that like he doesn't want it to be dead content because people will do it for the rewards and then they'll leave there. Whereas right here, so you know he was saying like, oh, you know they'll do it to get the black graceful or whatever, and then they'll just go back to Artie.
Not just the one
Look
thing
what
I
he
do
says
think
here.
Chambers did reasonably okay was that it's not just the best way to get the uniques. It doesn't make Chambers obsolete. You kind of do it to get the dust and the pet, and you still have a reasonable.
It doesn't make it obsolete because you do it for the dust and the pet. The agility method that's going to be coming out is not obsolete because you do it for the XP and the reward.
Chance at the uniques. I think it's just the reason it doesn't work is it's sort of capped off by people basically needing a twisted bow to do it, the way the scaling works. So we can look to address that, but if we do another one.
The new Inquisitor's armor has quite a lot of drawbacks. So this player quotes, they're pretty much used nowhere. What is the intent, and were they designed with a certain niche in mind when they were created?
Well, yeah, I mean, you say pretty much nowhere, but that's the whole idea of a niche, right?
Hey, Wes, here we go. 10 minutes since he introduced himself. First bit that he's talked. He gets a point just for contributing.
So yeah, that was the aim. We don't want to like usurp every single bit of best in slot armor all in one update. So you want to try and have incomparables in a way. So they're good in some places, they're not good in other places. I'm just explaining niches here, but yeah, that was the idea.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, any piece of content we come out with in the future that Crush is obviously really good at, the Nightmare is one of them, but who's to say that future PVM content won't? This armor is going to be really good. We didn't want to just say make something that's going to make Bandos obsolete. That's why it has the negative slash and negative stab, and the substantially lower defense.
He's
It was
doing a
also
good job
kind of
explaining
thought that
more points for Husky.
obviously the armor's a bit too expensive for this right now to be viable, but if there was enough of the armor game, it became a bit cheaper. It could be used for like a 30 defense PvP bracket, because it is technically better if you're using crush weapons there, like so you can take the mace and the full set. But
I saw a lot of content creators make a few of those videos, and they were really interesting. Obviously, the armor prices at the time were very volatile, so
yeah,
it's certainly not a good idea if you don't have that dispensable GP.
How much is
Where's Mod Acorn's point? So I can only do. I wasn't preparing for there to be 6 people on the couch. By the way, that's a huge couch. And since she is just asking the questions, I will not be grading her. If she starts contributing other than the asking of the questions, then I'll include her. I mean, at this point, it may be, given that Lenny hasn't talked since he introduced himself, and we are 11 minutes in right now, you know, I'm going to start leaning towards maybe replacing Lenny with Acorn. So we'll see how it goes.
the armor sitting at now?
I think the helmet's around about 100 mil, and the chest and the skirt are like 300-ish. I don't have the most up-to-date prices, but that's just what I've got in my head, ballpark.
He gets a point.
Before we move on
Just
to
for
the
taking a
PvP
guess at the
question
price.
stream, we had a question in the chat that asked if you
Queen
could
gets
do a
one for
dab.
asking.
No.
Whoever dabs gets 5
No?
points.
Okay. We'll just go to the PvP straight.
Oh, come on.
We had a question in the chat that asked if you could do a dab.
No.
Sween, you could have won. You could have won the week with that one.
Okay.
That might have been a
We'll just go to
10-pointer.
PvP, straight to the PvP questions then.
I think I dabbed in the old school team photo from like 2 years ago or something.
Oh, someone did.
I think someone was wearing a mask with your face on
Yeah,
it.
they were.
Yeah. I'm sure, I think it's in the...
I sort of asked them to do that as a joke. I didn't think they'd actually do it. And then I came back and was like, oh, now I have this mask with my face.
I think it's on the JMod wiki page, probably lurking around
I
somewhere.
think it is, yeah.
It is on the JMod wiki page.
Okay,
You're in there.
good. Dabbing, yeah.
So with the Gillinor Gazette, we released a segment on PvP. When it comes to looking at the feedback for blogs that contain PvP vision, how do you determine which feedback is actually useful?
It's hard because, I mean, the blog itself talks about how many different types of PvPers there are, and they've all got different opinion on whether their feedback is useful. So we need to try to please as many people as we can, despite, and I know, so a lot of the feedback we've seen so far is kind of expected, like PvP worlds. Some players don't want those removed. Some players don't want wilderness restricted on certain worlds. We know that, we kind of expected that to be the case, but what we're trying to do is get to, and I know I'm kind of like deviating from the question, but getting to like
Sween
trying
gets a
to
point
make
for
people
being
think
best
of
looking. All
a big
right.
piece of vision of where PvP
Okay,
could be
Jared.
at some point.
We'll give him one.
It's hard to kind of define what's useful because typically we need to look at the experts. For PvP Worlds, for example, we've now got a list of all accounts that have accessed PvP Worlds since end of January. So that's probably a really good place to start when we want to dig deep into feedback from those players about PvP Worlds, why they value them, why they don't want to be removed, why they want them kept, that kind of thing.
So are you open to
So I really like how he is able to say there that they have a log of the accounts that have accessed those worlds. So I wonder if for their feedback they're gonna reach out to those players specifically. So obviously, you know, like if I'm pretty certain I haven't logged into a PvP world. If I have, it would have been on accident. But to be able to pull that information is really good. Like that's the perfect demographic to ask about the PvP worlds to get their information. Obviously, yeah, I said that I support the removal of PvP worlds, but I don't do anything on them. So how valuable is my feedback exactly? I mean, obviously coming from a point of view to where it's unaffected to what I do, so you know, I can provide a more neutral stance on it, you know, with no agenda. But I think it's fantastic that they're able to track that information to then go at them for info.
keeping them should feedback say that the players do want us to keep the PvP worlds?
Yeah.
Perfect. can we get an update on Bounty Hunter? Where are we at with that? When can we expect it? And anything about Bounty
Post it
Hunter?
in
Is it coming back?
news post.
Yeah, so in the Gazette itself, there's a
Yep.
section in the.
He gets points for pointing that out.
What
Saying
stage
that
is it?
it's
Is it
already been
growth
addressed
or-
is essentially what he's saying.
One of the sections of the PvP Vision article talks about Bounty Hunter, and we're aiming to restore some form of Bounty Hunter at the end of the month or / early April.
Perfect.
All right.
So we have a question for the sofa. What are your thoughts on bringing Dead Man mode back? It's a topic that's
First person to say yes gets 2 points.
quite heavily discussed within the community. We've had people responding to social media posts, Dead Man mode when, Dead Man mode when. So, what are your thoughts on bringing it back?
I think a lot of the team are like definitely for bringing it back so long as we can dedicate the right amount of time to it. I think everyone can agree that
I mean, he's getting 1 point just for contributing about 14 and a half minutes that he sat there silent.
towards the end of Dead Man's life, it wasn't getting sort of the development time and attention that it deserved, and it really kind of shown in the last couple of tournaments that went on. As a concept, I still love it. I think a lot of the team love it.
All right, there you
But
go.
we just need to make sure that we've got the time to keep on top of it and keep it fresh tournament after tournament if we want to keep it going in that same way.
Yeah, we were definitely going way too fast. Like, the second one ended, we were starting another. There was no time to iterate or improve on it, and underlying bugs were just sort of pushed under the carpet so that we could focus on other things.
Point for Lenny,
And that's
point
how
for
we
Ed.
ended up killing everyone multiple times. But yeah, I love Deadman. I loved working on it. It was like one of the most fun projects to work on. But if we were to bring it back, I would definitely want the opportunity to just rip pretty much the entire thing out and redevelop it from scratch.
Make it better than just bringing something that may have not been perfect.
Yeah, and not just like fixing all those issues, but then building on that with like, I think so many of the things we ended up using in leagues, like tasks and maybe even relics possibly. Like, I think the tasks definitely, there's something that could be like really awesome to add to Deadman.
Stuff like seasonal rewards, like the fact that you can actually, with what we did with the engine work we got for leagues, like the idea of having your progress lead to a reward in either, say, a main game or perhaps even World 45 if we want to link up seasonal and tournaments with permanent
I
Deadman.
like it.
I'd love to see Deadman come back.
Up there it is! People, Ed and Lenny didn't specifically say, yes, I want it back. They kind of said, if we could do this, if we could do that. Good on
In terms
swing.
of needing the right amount of dev time, I think Twisted League is a really good example of how the kind of new look, old school leadership team, really empowering the dev team and listening to them and asking, how much time do you need? Okay, take all the time you need to make it right, rather than kind of rushing us to like a 3 month cadence where we kind of went into it knowing that it's not going to be great.
And it's really important. I think it benefits both us and the players when you have this break in between the seasons. I mean, looking at, say, that like Twisted League, we have had the time to say, look back, what are the things that were good, what are the things that were bad, what improvements would we make? And I think with Deadman, it just didn't have that time in between. People kept asking for the new season to be fresh and the new season to do it, but when you don't have time to sit back and look at what was good and what was bad, you don't even have the time to make those changes, you know? So I think that it was something I think we said with leagues was, if you do it, you need enough time for people to miss it before you put it out again, if you know what I mean.
Good point there.
And obviously the community's been asking for it. It really
You know what? He's getting another point because I feel like that's a very strong point that he made there. And I'll back it up here just about 10 seconds so you can repeat
shows
it.
that was bad. You don't even have the time to make those changes, you know. So I think that it was something I think we said with leagues was, if you do it, you need enough time for people to miss it before you put it out again, if you know what I mean.
There it is, right there.
And obviously the community's been asking for it. It really shows that while people might not have been as interested towards the end of the last few seasons, they're definitely really interested now because they say they're missing it.
I'd love like
Distance makes
I think
the
the dream
heart
scenario
grow
for me would be
fond.
alternate between leagues and Deadman. So you've got like a non-PvP, cool task, relic-based
Ooh, there you go.
content, really out there stuff, and then you've got the same seasonal approach but PvP focus.
Yeah.
Just to add to it, I'd say like the final section of Deadman was getting really strong towards the end, like the sort of 1v1s. While it did take a long time, I found those super interesting to watch, and it just sort of brought out the actual skill of the players rather than sort of team-based a cluster of barrages and gins that was the previous final.
And the 1v1's a really good example of like when we did actually get time to add new things, just like what we could do, like that and the. I mean, I'm biased because I developed them, but the spectator tools as well. Like I loved those. They were like one of my favorite things to develop. Like even like where we are now, like 2.5 years later, I'm still like they're probably like one of my favorite things to have created. I'd love to go back and like do even more with them.
We've got the HUDs up on the screen when we're doing the present in the final. It was just so much better that you could probably see what they were doing. You could see their inventories.
Yeah.
It just made the whole thing a lot much better.
So yeah, TLDR, yes, but we need to fix it.
Okay, answers perfect. I mean, I personally loved behind the scenes work, doing the social, or it sitting in a room, or whether it was upstairs in ESL or like behind the sofas, just like quickly tweeting.
Oh, that's these guys obviously never saw that. So, like, sat in that tiny room, because I was always the one controlling the entire thing. Like, and if I press one button wrong, like the entire thing would break. I mean, not that I needed any help breaking it anyway. Like it broke on its own, but.
Oh, so it was you that broke it the last.
I promise it wasn't. It did it itself.
I remember on one of the last tournaments I was actually at the venue at ESL for, and I walked into the production room that I was talking about, and
Sea
the
Shanty
entire
2! Get ready for the banger.
ESL studio crew were just halfway through some kind of dance routine, and I had no idea what was going on, but it just like lifted up the mood for the rest of the night.
So on the topic of Dead Man Moan, we have
Everyone gets a point for Sea Shanty 2.
Permanent World 45 Dead Men. What do you feel we should do about it? It's been on for a while, it hasn't changed. We have also a dedicated player base that plays it pretty much consistently. So what do you think we should do with World 45? We've heard reset before.
So the blog, the Gazette article.
I don't think that they should reset. I think that I really like that the world as it is exists, and my understanding is that it doesn't receive any updates. I think the world's fine how it is. I don't know anyone who actually does it, and I think if you were to check in game right now, there's probably how many people are at that world? 45. 33 people in that world right now. I'll just listen to what they had to say.
The article says we don't know what we should do. I think we've all got our own opinions on it, but we don't know what the right course of action to take is. Personal opinion, I guess if we go around the sofa and say what we'd like to do with it. Dedicated player base for sure, but it's a very small player base. And the thing is, because they've been playing this permanent server for so long, their accounts are at a great stage. It's because it's like always on PvP as well. New players onboarding that server, they're going to get killed and they're going to leave. They're not going to come back. I'd quite like to. I think my ideal scenario would be reset the server, like a full wipe of it. I'd like to see what the features we've got from the leagues and the ability to carry over progress from league to league. People who have stuff like cosmetics and pets, if we can keep that to transfer between the reset, awesome. And then I think I'd like to reset it quite regularly, because what's to say that once we reset it, it's not the same thing's not going to happen again. So if we reset it at a regular basis, perhaps like every 6 months, and I think we had a chat before the stream started, like what's a really good cadence? I'd say 6 months, and then if you play it post reset and you played it last time, if we could offer some kind of like increased XP or increased loot or maybe some carryover for progress to kind of give them a head start and make it worth playing, then I think that's what I would quite like to do.
What if we, and I know this would probably require more engine stuff to do this transfer
God, Sea Shanty 2 is such a good song.
properly, but you know, like
We said the word.
I know, you know, like how things like Diablo do their seasons, right? Where all your seasonal transfer just gets like added to whatever your Deadman save. What if we kept the world open, but that just happened? Any loot you had from Deadman, any XP you had, just add it to your rank, add it to whatever. Obviously, there's a lot more stuff we'd have to consider, like do they have bank space and the technical limitations, but that could be something, and it means that people might not be as far behind in World 45 over time, especially if the XP is slightly multiplied a bit further in the actual seasonal. People could end up with a relatively good account after playing for one seasonal, then hop in and not suffer all the new player problems. That's just a suggestion, but
It's definitely something that we're looking into. We're not going to
I
just
don't know
put
if I
45 on
like
the
it,
back
but it's
burner.
something to
It's
think
in the
about
front
so
of
we
our
get to
minds.
point
Well,
that.
we need to make a decision. Like, and I think the community deserves a decision. And it could be, and it's probably not the ideal one, we're leaving it as it is, and it's just going to carry on, and we're not going to touch it. Or it could be something else. But we need to find out what that something else should be, and then.
What about World 46?
Oh,
That comes up quite often.
don't touch World 46. You guys already. Oh, I guess you can't see. You guys already know. Check that World 46. Leave it as is. Don't touch my precious world.
But then, like I said, what's to prevent the same thing happening in World 46 that it does to 45 in a year's time? 47?
Just waiting till we get to World 69.
All right. I don't have her up there, but that statement alone would have been 2 points.
After enough Dead Men Worlds. So let's discuss LMS. We polled adding imbues to LMS, but it failed. Do you think we should re-poll those as long as we specify that you can still get imbues elsewhere, similar to Nightmare Zone?
I would like to. I think that poll kind of came hot on the heels of the warding poll as well. And even though we revised the warding pitch, I think because of the initial warding pitch, players kind of had it in their minds that we're really out to steal their imbues. That's not the case. We're just looking at alternative ways. So if we can communicate that in the poll question, then perhaps it would fare differently. It's not about trying to force it through. It's just about representing the question in the right way with the most up-to-date information.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see how much it failed by. If it was quite close, then maybe there's a reasonable reason to repoll it. But if it was quite bad, like in the 50%, it might not be worth it because
I don't know
things changed that much. I don't know. It's not even a year yet, so.
We've had a few players telling us that boxing is becoming a problem within LMS. Are we looking to do anything to combat boxing within LMS?
Yeah, again, that's covered in the Gazette. I think it's in the either the growth stage of PvP Vision or the other one. Basically, we're exploring like different time.
Anytime someone mentions, well, I mean, that was a very polite way of Sween saying it's already been addressed. And anytime someone does that, they're going to get a point.
Maybe looking at the dead man timer
and site source.
I don't know how it works explicitly, but if it was something like if no damage has been dealt over a certain period of time, then you can be attacked by somebody else. I think that's how it works. Stuff like that. But yeah, we want to fix boxing.
Yeah.
We've also touched in that Gazette that we're working on, or hope to work on, the Wilderness boss rework.
So with the Wilderness bosses, I mean, I haven't killed them other than the Diary, but I don't really think that they should be adjusted. Obviously, again, I'm not a PKer, so I'm not out there in the world. I'm not a PVMer, so I'm not out there killing them. So I have the least amount of information that a player could probably have while giving an opinion on it. But I don't think that tweaking the Wilderness bosses is the right idea. And I think it would just be better for them to kind of remain as is. The mechanics of them, I know, like, they're pretty bad. And like you have to for certain bosses you gotta like use some bugs kind of to get them in ideal situations for actually being able to kill them. But I don't know, I don't like the idea of them really getting played with.
Do we know which team would be working on that, or some mods that would be working on that? Mainly so players can direct queries, or besides just to CM.
Sure. Just to add on to like the last bit of the question, about like talking to the right mods. I think you definitely need that kind of communication to the people working on stuff, but it also shouldn't be like I know which mods I want to shit talk or harass, that kind of thing. But in terms of who's working on it, probably going to be the operators, which for now is Ash's team, but I believe Ash is going to be moving on to work on the clan system. Oasis works on the operators, Rock, even though he's upload manager, works on the operators, and Mod Melee, who we introduced in today's Gazette, so give her a warm welcome I think she's got a Twitter account, I'm not sure. She'll also be joining the operators. And there's Rock in the chat. Hello, Rock.
Finally, for the PvP section, are we set on making the PvP changes that we laid out in the Gazette?
No, we're not set. We said at the end, like, we want their feedback to kind of inform it. We've taken like a really top level view of how PvP could be, with a main focus on, if I was to kind of elevator pitch it, it was make PvP more dangerous open world based, which is why we're kind of moving.
I really thought he was about to say make PvP great again.
PvP could to kind of inform it. We've taken like a really top level view of how PvP could be.
Like it almost sounds like he's setting it up for the make PvP great again. I'd have gone nuts if he said it.
With a main focus on, if I was to kind of elevator pitch it, it was make PvP.
Right there. If I was to elevate the pitch, it would be to make PvP, and it was. Oh, I was on the edge of my seat getting ready for it. That would have probably exploded, been like 10 points just on its own.
More dangerous open world based, which is why we're kind of moving it to the wilderness. But if that's not the right thing to do, then we'll revisit it. What I've seen so far, lots of positivity towards most of the changes. Like two of the main sticking points tend to be the PvP world stuff and restricting wilderness access.
Perfect.
But though, so like the restricting wilderness access to certain worlds, I actually like that idea. If the idea is, to push players into the wilderness, restricting the worlds that the wilderness is accessible on will increase overall activity in the wilderness just due to, there not being 155 worlds for people to do it on. Maybe it's only 100. And then that like kind of indirectly has a increase, like you could, using bad math, say that has, an increase on wilderness activity because there's more. You know the thing. Sound like Joe Biden.
So we talked about the Gazette quite a lot, and there is a section in there that talks about Soul Wars quite heavily. So we have the 2 mods out of the 3 that we listed in the blog that helped make the Soul Wars section. So why did you choose Soul Wars for your ideation day?
Good question. Why did we pick Soul Wars?
I don't really know. It's something that comes up a lot. And it was because we kind of wanted this proof of concept for whether or not we could put little bits of content like this. It was something that jumped out to us as an early-ish piece of content that people want.
Early-ish. Let's see. When was Soul Wars? Let me. February 10th, 2019. Or I'm sorry, 2009. So all right. He gets a point for the early-ish because I'd say that is ish.
That we'd like to see developed in the game. And it just seemed like a good starting point to try this stuff out, really.
Yeah, I think that's like the important thing. Like, it was, in some ways, it was less about Soul Wars itself, and it was like, we wanted to test to see like what we could actually do with regards to like.
Yeah, I think the important thing is like, do people want to do it for the actual fun of doing it, or do people want to do it for the rewards and the easy XP that people are able to obtain from it? Put an activity timer in.
I'm trying to think about what we've been stealing, but let's go with stealing things from like the post 2007 era. And Soul Wars was just sort of the one that like made the most sense. I mean, it's not a huge piece of content, but at the same time, it has a little bit of everything. It has like obviously interfaces, audio, models, animations. Like we could test every like aspect of porting things over and seeing how each one would perform. So it wasn't. Don't get me wrong, we're big fans of Soul Wars, but it wasn't. We want Soul Wars, so this is the one we're going to try out with, and no, none of the others.
Good explanation.
Soul Wars being the thing that you chose, what about Stealing Creation? Do you think that could be one of the next things that we take from RS.
Or Fist of Gothics, like
Or
other
Fist of
people are
Gothics.
spamming.
I think they're both definitely things that Ed and I are interested in. Like,
Yeah, we've had a few chats about, like, if we were to do more, what would we do next?
As we started sort of looking at Soul Wars, we were thinking, okay, so if this does work, where do we take it from here? What do we do next? We're like, okay, cool, let's look at Steel and Creation next week, Fist of Gothic the week. It's not quite going to be that quick fire. It's not that simple and easy a process.
Yeah, I think one of the things we like said in the Gazette is that like this was an experiment, and we sort of like ended that section with a question of like, what do you guys want us to do next? Like, should we throw all of this in the bin and like not touch that content because this is old school, not 2011 scape, and we shouldn't be doing that stuff? That's maybe like a valid answer from all of this. Like, we weren't doing it to say we definitely want to put this in game. It was an experiment. It was a test. But on the flip side, like, yeah, maybe this is a direction we want to go in, and maybe we do want to take some other things. Like, obviously, people are mentioning. Dungeoneering next. That guy's mentioning EOC, maybe not that one, but yeah, like there is potential things. Like for me personally, I would never want to go too far that way. Like
If they want to come out with Dungeoneering, that's fine, but don't make it a skill.
I think it's important to have a nice balance. Like when I look at old school, we take a lot of inspiration from RuneScape 3, but sometimes we also like offer brand new unique things. Like if you look at what we've got planned for this year.
You see, one problem with me is that I don't know a lot of what actually is from RS3, so if I wouldn't have started like telling Spiritual Warriors, I would have never known that this blood amulet that they were talking about was in RS3. There's a lot that I'm sure is in RS3 that I have no idea about that they, and probably a whole bunch of other people, I mean, if you haven't played RS3 and, say you quit RuneScape for a couple of years and then you came back and started playing old school, well, you don't know what happened the first couple of years before you came back, and then like they've had 7 years of updates since. I don't know.
You've got Dark.
They should re-pull Sailing and Sailing to be in game if they put as much effort into it as they did Warding. I agree. So Sailing was pulled one time, and I think that it got I think it got like around 67% or so for the first time that it was pulled. And I was surprised that it did so well with Warding. They had like the full like training concept and every like the presentation for Warding. You could tell that there was a lot more effort that was put into it, and like if they would have put in the combination of like effort into Warding and amount of times pulled as Artisan, Sailing would have passed. It was like 67% pass, and it was only pulled one time, and that was the one time, and then it was never talked about again, which very surprising, because like when it was pulled that one time and it failed, and John C said, we're not coming back to it. I didn't believe him at all, and obviously I was very wrong. I am wrong regularly. That just happens to be one of the highlighted ones for me, I think, of something that I thought was definitely not going to be like, oh, Iron Man won't impact the actual game, Dead Man won't slow down updates to the real, like those are obviously other things. Mobile users, mobile won't have an impact on the rest of the game. I mean, there's a lot of like stuff like that where it's like, I don't believe you at all. And then, oh wow, look at that. But Sailing was one of those that I kind of put in that same tier as well, but I was surprised that they never went back to it. Thought Sailing had some good potential. Yeah, they've used, I mean, a lot of the content from Sailing, they already use like the, what are those, the things that drop, like the torture and the anguish, demonic gorillas, I think they are. Yeah, like that was Sailing.
Darkmire, which exists in RuneScape 3, and while there's plenty of old school unique
Oh, yeah, Darkmire exists in RS3. I had no idea. Exactly what I was just saying.
to fair like the Hallowed Sepulchre, there is quite a bit of overlap as well. But then on the flip side, you've got A Kingdom Divided, which is the new Karen quest. That is completely unique to old school. There's nothing like comparable to that in RuneScape 3. I think it's always important to have a variety. So if we did do more of these, I certainly wouldn't want this to become, we're doing Steel and Creation, now we're doing Fist of Gothics, now we're doing Dungeoneering, and like there's never anything new and fresh ever again. They'd want to be a balance.
Yeah. It's worth pointing out that for all some old school players' criticisms of RuneScape 3, however you want to call it, like EOC or other reasons, they did a lot right. That's why the games lasted so long, and that's why players wanted old school back, and why they're still playing old school. So, and things like Darkmire, I know some players are like, this is, and we had the same thing with Prif as well. This is RS3. Why are you doing this? Well, I mean, the stories started being written in like the early 2000s. We could just leave them hanging, or maybe we blow up Darkmire. That's our twist on the quest line.
Hey, no spoilers.
I think, well, yeah. Like different people have different opinions. The way I've always looked at it is like, no, it's not RS3. RS3, when did that come out? Mid 2013, like June, July 2013 or something like that. That is RS3. Like anything before that, no, that's not RS3. You know, there's some things before that, like I wouldn't go down the route of like MTX and EOC. But on the whole, I think a lot of things between like 2007 and 2011, to me, they are in many ways still very much old school. Like what is old school? Like that date from 2007, that was picked 'cause it's what we had. That was the backup that we found hidden away in a safe somewhere. There was no like big strategic decision that this is the old school date. So like, I do think there's things that came after that date that do fit the old school style.
Well, I would say like when that date was picked, that's when the actual clear definition for what is old school and what is not was established. Talk about the going years back about preserving the old school feel, and that date was set. May have been a random save file, but that by definition was the old school feel date.
Yeah, there's things that came after the date that definitely don't.
We do mention in the Gazette that Soul Wars was taken from a 2012 backup. Are you foreseeing a 2012 RuneScape server?
No. So this is like heavy, like worth pointing out here that was a content backup. So there is no client there, no engine. That is not something that we could ship to people. And to be honest, like even if we wanted to, like 2012, that was this is what we're talking like mid 2012 as well. Like MTX was already in the game at that point. It had already, although it wasn't RS3 at that point, it was already starting to get close. I personally think it'd be too late anyway, if we even could do it.
It's not just like the sort of player-facing things that we need to be able to release, like the client and the engine as well. Things that Ed and I ran into, even the tools are incompatible to some extent. There's parts of the tools that we could not get working when trying to access this backup. The files are all there, but it's not easy to access some of them.
And while they were taken from a 2012 backup, so Soul Wars was developed 2008, 2009?
2009, I think.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's still from 2009. I didn't change it much, or at all really, in those years, so it's worth noting.
If we do a poll for Soul Wars and it does pass, when would you expect it to come into old school? Or would you like to see it into old school?
So I think if we did want to like go forward.
So that's an interesting question to ask because this wasn't anything that was discussed at RuneFest, like this PvP stuff that they kind of posted about. Usually when they have the RuneFest, they're talking about they're pretty much laying the groundwork for what like the next year of updates are. And I'm wondering, like, obviously things like group Iron Man and like clan system. Well, like, I think group Iron Man's gonna have to wait until the clan system's done, and so I don't know. Like, does this delay any? I don't know. It's a good question to ask. Is pretty much the main takeaway from that.
Of this, like after the feedback we get from the Gazette, the next question would be, do we poll it? And if we did, I'd like to think it'd be doable this year. Like, I don't want people to like get carried away and like see our images and go, oh, it's complete, they can ship it next week. Like when we said that earlier, we were joking, like we have a working prototype, but a working prototype is a long way from a shippable product. So would be talking like towards the end of the year if we did want to go ahead with it. There's still a lot of work to put into it, and for similar reasons, that's why we're not suddenly going to be able to offer stealing creation and dungeoneering and stuff like that. As I mentioned, Soul Wars is probably the smallest of all of them to do, and it's still going to take a lot of months' work, even if we did go forward with it after this.
There's also the talk of the rewards, right? Because a lot of the rewards from Soul Wars were like summoning stuff, or like, so we don't have that. So we're not just going to say, oh, we need to copy the rewards across. We'll just take summoning, because why not?
Yeah, that is another like big question. Like, how much do we keep it the same? Like, nostalgia is hugely important to old school, And if we were to ship Soul Wars into it, we would want to keep that nostalgia. But some things we probably would need to change. Like, yeah, we're not going to be able to ship summoning related rewards. Like, when we put the interface over right now, I think it's still there. There's like, you can select charms on it, and obviously they don't do anything because we don't have charms in old school. Like, we probably need to replace those rewards with something else. And then similarly, the XP rewards, like, XP rewards from minigames aren't necessarily a bad thing, like Pest Control has done it just fine, but from Soul Wars they were maybe a little bit too easy to get XP, especially for certain account builds, so we'd probably want to put restrictions on that. Like, I imagine we probably would want to launch a minigame with like a total level restriction or a combat level restriction, or maybe even both, to make it so it's not too easy to get XP, and also to solve the botting problem, because as I think lots of people pointed out as soon as the blog went live, Soul Wars was heavily botted, and we would want to try and tone that down a bit. So there are those questions as well, like what would we need to change, and
Another point.
like how far would we need to go with that?
Are there any unique rewards you'd consider to add to Soul Wars in the future?
I'd quite like to do the capes. I imagine we're probably not going to get Nomad's Requiem anytime soon, so stealing the capes from that quest, because it's nice and thematic, it's fitting they're the capes from a minigame. I think that'd be a nice reward. I wouldn't mind an avatar pet either.
Maybe throw the imbues over there as well.
Pet hunters will love that.
Well, if I remember rightly, that the reward shop in Soul Wars allowed you to buy pets.
Yeah, there's the summoning sort of related.
Yeah, it'd keep that thematic there as well.
I mean, there were things like a Jad pet in the Soul Wars reward shop, as I
Yeah.
found when I was clicking it over. I don't think we'll be putting that in there.
Keep your old pet.
Quickest way to get a nibbler, Soul
Yeah.
Wars.
We'll just make it the pity shop. You need to be so-and-so dry for a pet, and then you can start buying it with Soul Wars stuff.
So we talk about Soul Wars, but we also had a few upcoming projects that we've teased at RuneFest, such as the PVM Achievement Diaries. What are your thoughts on what a PVM Achievement Diary would look like?
So think an achievement diary, but for PVM.
So
Great.
I'm not actually joking either. Like that's how I envision
Jesus.
it. Like, we've got achievement diaries
Ed's
for
killing
areas
it.
right now, but why do we just need to do area achievement diaries? This would be an achievement diary that probably looked a lot like those ones, but for a skill, or in this case multiple skills, like combat related skills, rather than an area. And you could have like easy tasks that are as simple as kill a goblin, and hard tasks which are, I don't know, like do the inferno with a banana or something.
yeah, I remember Gambit, one of the Q&As, had said, "You're not going to be on the Q&A. That's a shame. But I've got a question about PVM diaries. Can you write up a response?" And I had an A4 document written up, A4 page, and he was like, "I'm going to skip that, and we'll just come back to another session." So I'll try and keep it brief. But my
He gets a point
sort
for
of
that.
pitch was.
He gets a point for that effort that we never got to actually see.
You've got tiers from beginner to master, where beginner starts off at things like mole and easy tasks like that, like maybe kill it before it burrows 2 times, right? All these.
They mentioned like a sub 70 Inferno in the blog for some of the like harder tasks. I think that's a pretty good idea, and they could probably go in the same direction for, also I guess Jad as well. Make a Jad one for hard. Make the Inferno timed one elite.
Low-level
Good
bosses
ideas.
are going to be pretty hard to actually create interesting challenges for, because they're not actually interesting bosses and they don't have that many mechanics. But as you start going up, you could start to have things like you think like what a hard tier is, and for hard tier for the achievement diaries, it's very much like 60s, 70s-ish skills, and then elite is like 80s. I sort of viewed hard PVM diaries as like do a melee fight caves, right? So it's harder than doing Jad, right? And then elite would start to look at things like God Wars, things like kill Zilliana without taking damage from anything, right? Ooh. Where you have to try and do prayer flicking things. Master would be time trialed Inferno, time trialed Tob and Chambers, maybe even do Inferno without T-bow, things like that. So this is the sort of scale I was looking at, and just sort of looking at what we could offer people, say like cosmetics for doing it. That sort of thing. But this was the sort of scale. It was supposed to make interesting challenges so that you're saying, hey, I'm going to go kill Vorkath. Oh, what challenges has it got on there? Maybe take no damage from the poison pools and all these little things. So it was that sort of scale. And the reason as well was people sort of, I've seen it come in streams all the time. People ask, I'm like 70s-ish, 80s-ish combat stats. I want to get into bossing. Where do I start? And we don't really have any signposted direction. Even combat level isn't the best indicator in some cases, right? So it was to say, okay, if you're looking to get into PVM, maybe you start at the beginner, the KBDs and the moles, and work your ways up to medium for the Dag Kings, and then sort of give people this sort of linear path to go through.
So you're not going to put Master achieve a fire cape at level 3 combat?
Probably not, because, you know, you get like one shot at that.
I think for the players who are hearing about like achievement, PVM achievement diaries, focus on the concept of it. Like,
Yeah.
what could you do? Because I know some players are really excited about it, and perhaps through some of the examples you listed, they're like, it's gated by RNG.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at stuff like kill in certain timers.
Yeah.
Maybe don't focus on the specifics he just rolled off on the Q&A in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I had like a...
Yeah, it's still very early days, I think, as the blog mentioned.
I don't know. It can be RNG, but a lot of that is going to be skill based for being able to. Like RNG can only play so much of a factor for something like we had Abra on one of the Q&A or podcasts, and he was talking about how like when he got his, I think it was like 3 or 6 hours, like something nuts like that is how long it took for his successful Inferno completion. There's some skill that's involved. It's not all RNG based. So I don't know. I really like the idea of timed kills.
Like, this is something planned for like later in the year, so it's still very like high level concept. Like, we don't fully know ourselves what it'll look like yet, but I think, as mentioned earlier, we'd want it to have multiple tiers, and easy could really be easy if we really wanted. It could be just like killing some very low level creatures for the noobs just coming off Tutorial Island, and then only when you get to like hard and elite and stuff, it starts to get more interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, when we start taking on projects like that, we would probably have a full like design blog with like the tasks that we're going to, and we'd probably start looking at talking to communities who like to do PvPM and saying, what would you guys consider to be a difficult task or an easy task? And there'd obviously need to be a lot more design work than just, as you say, me rattling off the first things that came to my head from a document I wrote 6 months ago.
So, moving on, we also mention a second league. What are we planning to do differently with the second league in comparison to the first?
Spoilers.
Ooh. So I don't want to talk about what we have planned for the second league, because that is spoilers, but there are a lot of learnings. There are things like getting better balance between the relics. We've spoken about the idea that if something is just so good that everyone wants to pick it, either it shouldn't exist or everyone should get it by default, right? We want to have a better balance between the three of them. Things like XP multiplier relics just feel they're either really good or just not worth picking, right? I think like tier 3 was really good when it made you pick between different skills, but the idea of saying you either pick double XP or you pick like a 1 tick faster, it just becomes like a crunch the numbers and see which one gets you more points. We'd rather remove that choice entirely, so instead of just picking what is optimal for points, you sort of have, I've got these fun different flavors for builds I can pick. We definitely want to do something with drop rates. If we did for example, did the Twisted League again, we would. It comes down to the league itself. If there's a league that has a shorter lifespan because the content is less, maybe we wouldn't buff it as much, but you know, we want the element of saying, in the Twisted League, we made all these challenge tasks for really hard challenge mode times that basically require T-bow. We should probably make getting a T-bow a lot more viable, so it's less RNG if I hit a 1 in 1,000 from raids. Maybe if it was like a 1 in 200 or something, it would have been a better sort of place for people to feel like they got it. And then they also would feel bad about getting it in the first place, right? They don't feel like they've wasted their RNG on the main game. They're just, oh, cool, I got this, and I was supposed to get it easier.
I think we also discussed potentially just showing off relics more in advance, so rather than just being like, here's some hidden names that you have to quickly chaw through a video.
Yeah, we'd want to involve player groups a lot more to get opinions on the balance of the relics. We maybe wouldn't say, hey, here is all the relic tiers pitched, but maybe more like, here's 10 relics. Tell us the ones you think are the best, sort of rank them in order and that sort of thing, so we can get a better judge of power level.
Cool.
One thing I'd like to change was it's more to do with how we announced what leagues were generally. We kind of kept it as a surprise.
What we should get is the original 2013 old school release as a Twisted. Fine, make it happen.
It was a bit too hidden for too long, and even though I really enjoyed, I didn't really play it much, but I enjoyed consuming the content and seeing how players engaged with it. And I think, quite a sweeping statement, I think players liked it. Big general statement. I know individuals wouldn't have done, some individuals loved it, but I think generally you liked it. But when we first announced it, it was very much nobody asked for this, and that's completely right. No one did, and we just kind of dropped it on you. And there are reasons for it, which I think we should have been more open about the fact that we were working on that kind of thing. and that's what we're trying to do with, I guess, the project tracker and the gazettes and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, you understand now that we're working on it. This is kind of different stages we're at. It's coming.
Yeah.
Just be more open about what we're working on.
So, what trophy did you get in the end?
I didn't get one. I barely have enough time to play my main account.
Disappointing. So we did talk about another project, a Kingdom Divided.
Loads of projects.
I know. You mentioned it earlier as well, Kingdom Divided. What is it? And is there anything you could tell us that
A Kingdom Divided sounds like the Corona
you could give us exclusive
lacking for luck.
spoiler content now?
Ooh, I don't know about that, but yeah, A Kingdom Divided. It was announced by Ash at RuneFest, but we haven't really talked about it since. And one of the things we want to do with the Gillinor Gazette is start talking about things a bit earlier. Hence why we have a project tracker. It's planned for quite late in the year. It's like one of the last projects down for this year, so not going to see it for a while yet. But it is the next quest in the Karen series, and it's hopefully going to come with some new spells, the Arceus spellbook, and maybe, and this is not a promise, they'll take it as a promise because they never listen, but
Quick, highlight this.
it's not a promise.
What are you
but
promising, Ed?
I'm not promising anything.
What are you promising?
What's definitely coming into the game?
All right, you know what? No, it's not.
Oh, you
It
can,
might.
Oh, come on.
It might come with more remapping
Ooh, nice.
if
Of
we
Zeta.
can. Yeah.
Is that likely to include the map you showed? Was it 2 Q&As ago?
Yeah, the Shazian one.
Yeah.
And I've also got a design for Lovacaine and Arceus in the works as well.
Awesome.
And some players have made
No, too many promises.
and the players have made a really good Aurelius redesign, which I'll probably look to borrow.
We're giving us more work as the stream progresses.
So, yeah, like while it's mainly the quest, we want to use it as another opportunity to focus on like a
Is this supposed to be a Grandmaster quest, a medium quest, or I don't recall the presentation that they had.
couple of things we can improve in Karen. I think we're getting there now, but we know there's still more remapping to do, and yeah, the spellbook needs a bit of work, and this is a perfect opportunity to hopefully deliver a bit more on that. But I imagine this still won't be the end of things in Karen. Well, it won't be for the storyline. I can definitely
so it's
confirm
a
this is not
master
the
quest,
finale of the
not
quest series by
Karen.
any means. This is, to be honest, this is a bit where it's only really getting started. Like, you've got the 5 individual house quests. This is the one that sort of brings them all together and like really actually probably gets the story going. So there's still plenty more to come after this,
Is this
story-wise, but just content in general as well for Karen. There's still a lot more, I think.
Is it like the Regicide or Morning's End in the Elf series? Like, we're getting there, but not quite.
Yeah, so I'd say Regicide's probably a good comparison. 'Cause like, Regicide is like, I guess, the turning point in that storyline. Like, initially, like, you've got the play, you've got Underground Pass, but you've never seen an elf. Regicide's where you finally meet the elves and finally start to understand why all of this is actually going on, but you're still nowhere near the end. I like to think, yeah, this is probably like similar. You've got all these like standalone events in all 5 quests. How do they all tie into each other? This is the one that starts to show how they all tie into each other and like where it's going from here.
and it's just like sort of setting up the story with the 5 quests we've got right now. It's a little bit about each of the houses. They're going to be the main players in the story going forward. So
Yeah,
looking forward to
We've
seeing where that
introduced
goes.
the main players. Now let's have some fun with them. Maybe kill a few of them.
Oh, God. So let's move on to some of the questions that are in the miscellaneous category. So not about the Gazette.
Miscellaneous ones are usually my favorite.
We have a question here. We know coronavirus is
All right. She'd get negative points for that.
oh no, is a heavy topic within the world. How is that going to affect Jagex? And is it going to affect Jagex?
I mean, first thing, I imagine that we'll start sitting much further away from each other on these Q&As, so like, don't be surprised if, yeah, exactly.
What I was suggesting is, you guys all go to one end, we'll come to this end, and then only half the couch can get infected, you know?
But on a serious note, yeah, it is possible it could impact Jagex, and inevitably that would impact our release schedule. But we would endeavour to do everything we can to at the very least keep the game online. But yeah, it is possible some things would have to get shifted back in release date, like maybe we wouldn't quite be able to deliver Dark Mario as we wanted, and that might mean that some things might not come out this year. But no one knows at this point.
Yeah.
There are steps that the company are taking kind of well in advance in case anything more does arise from it and actually sort of come to having an impact on the studio, sort of looking at whether we can have some people working from home rather than in the office, whether if people do have to work from home, like how well equipped are they to do so, what more equipment do they need, and trying to do things like that to make sure that we can keep functioning as a studio so long as things sort of progress and develop.
It's not
It would be very interesting. Like, I don't know if the like software and all that stuff that they have in their office, like is Ash able to do any of that? Because I know that like many years ago, like there was an issue that happened and like at like Saturday night, like 2 a.m. and Ash like came into the office to fix whatever the bug was that was going on. Wonder like, has situations like that had any impact on handling moving forward? I don't know, like, or since then, I guess. Oh,
not just Jagex, it's also player visits. So we have play tests and player visits. We want to make sure that we keep like not only the health and importance of our staff, but also players as well. And we keep
yeah, I hope that those player visits go as planned.
that as a priority.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a chance that we could have to hold off on some of those player visits and play tests.
Yeah, we will update them as well. So next month, just for context, we had 2 planned visits. One for the like Hallowed Sepulchre and Darkmire playtest, the clan leader visit and stuff too. Current way of thinking, they're going ahead, but that could change pending not just Jagex guidelines, but also like government guidelines and travel and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Industry-wise, like they cancelled GDC, they cancelled E3. Another studio today, Paradox, they announced that studio's closed, everyone's working remotely. So, I mean, Lenny...
They delayed the Bond film, and I'm so upset because it's like the only notable film coming out like next month.
Well, it was because of they didn't want to affect ticket sales.
Yeah.
But a movie came out last weekend, and it was no one bothered to like heed public health advice. They all went to the cinema anyway. But Lenny, you spoke earlier, like our priority will be keeping the game online. We'll make sure that happens, but that could be it's online, but without content updates. Worst case scenario, I guess be prepared for that. Yeah. We're kind of preparing for that. Hopefully, it won't get to that though.
Yeah, we're hoping. Yeah, we should be able to keep the game online because if everyone else does get quarantined, we know there'll be nothing worse than getting quarantined, stuck in your home, and not even being able to play RuneScape.
Yeah.
Like,
there they go.
So
2 points for ad, 1 for
We definitely want to
Sween.
deliver that. But yeah, it's more like a question of like, would we still be able to deliver some of the bigger updates? They might need to get moved back a bit.
Step up on your plague hats and face masks and papyrus.
Just sip an antidote plus.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. What if we just quarantine all the staff into the office so they can't leave, and then we could just continue working. You guys are not impacted. Just pull sleeping bags in the.
We're at least more than
Husky is thinking.
It'd be great, yeah.
Free
You get a
overtime.
point for that one.
So, Husky, you developed the Forthos dungeon.
Oh, that was a while ago.
Yeah, that was a while. Can players be able to toggle in the future receiving page drops as it spams untradeable drop notifications at Sarachnis?
Yeah, that seems like just pretty good quality of life. I've killed a good number of that boss myself. It is annoying. We could probably put it on Legosia, the person who you hand them into, and just say, hey, by the way, I don't care for your pages. I'm not going to look for them anymore, and then you'll just stop getting them.
Due to the magics of the universe, all the creatures just decide to stop dropping them.
Yeah, but only once you've completed the quest.
Another miscellaneous question here. We saw an update to God Wars Dungeon allowing clicks to register on an empty space around each room. Is it possible to get a similar fix to the Lizardman Temple? Can we do it?
Possible, yes. When we have time for it, I don't know, but
I don't even know
it's possible.
I don't even know what you need to do for that, but I'm not a mapping expert.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I think we have one here. Oh, never mind.
I just have to look at what was done for God Wars.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it just we need there to be something to click on rather than just a void of absolutely nothing?
I think even some like overlay, they're all going, what's an overlay? Actually, no, you can find out what an overlay is. Read the Gillinor Gazette where we talk about souls. We mention overlays in
there
there.
it is.
I think
Told
you're
you.
just mapping some of that down.
Anytime someone's going to point to source material, point, so Ed gets a point.
Might do it.
Oh,
Because I know we actually had we had it with the Inferno as well. We had to change that soon after launch.
It's a strange map because a lot of it is visible load as well, which I'm not going to explain what that means.
Yeah, that one we didn't explain in the blog. That one's a mystery even to us.
yeah, maybe there's just some overlay that could be mapped down. Yeah, it's worth looking into.
Given our one artist here on the sofa, we had an animation recently for fletching animation.
Oh yeah, well.
Can we add a cleaning herbs?
Oh yeah, I'd like to do that. So like any sort
How
of
did you
animation.
say that?
Herbs.
Herbs.
This is
Yeah.
the American.
You missed a letter there.
There's a H.
Herbs.
That's the proper way. Herbs. It's herb lore. All right, she gets a couple mental points that I can't.
Oh yeah, I'd like to do that. So like any sort
How
of
did you say
animation.
that?
Herbs.
This
Herbs.
is
Yeah.
the American.
You missed a letter there.
There's a H.
Herbs.
Yeah,
Actually, no, I've changed my mind. Keep calling them herbs.
yeah, I'd like to make some animations for that. Much like how we did like the crafting, adding orbs to the end of battle staffs, and just all sort of animations. Well, skilling activities that don't actually have any animations and just looks like you're bank standing. It would be nice to sort of complete all those. I believe Herbs is one of the last ones, but there might be some missing.
Oh, don't say that. They'll find more for
Yeah,
you.
well, if they do, that'd be handy. So send us a list.
Send us a
That'd be
list.
great.
Decanting potions.
I mean, if you want, but just play the potion animation.
We could.
Just replace the pestle with another vial.
Or who's the guy at the gym?
Yeah.
It's annoying because I purposely tried to change up some of the way that the questions are worded to not say words that I know that I say differently than everyone else. Like the agility pet, I do not say that word
Oh,
very.
squirrel.
Yeah. So,
How does she pronounce it?
but anyways,
Curious.
are there any plans to add superiors for Slayer monsters such as drakes, worms, and hydras?
That would be cool. They would look quite cool though. So it'd be a challenge to make them look even cooler. But yeah, I reckon
Yeah, that was
that'd be cool.
that was
I don't have
talked
a
about recently.
strong
I think there are
opinion.
people on the team who'd like to do that, and it would just shake up those tasks a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's also a few other superiors that could be that missed out on the update back when Ghost did them initially. Can't think of which ones specifically, but I think there's a few of them that could look a bit nicer.
And it was Turoth as well. I mean,
Oh,
technically,
Turoth,
a
that
superior
one was
Turoth is a Kurask, but
Well,
Oh, you're missing the important ones.
Oh,
We
he
are
gets
missing
a
out a
point for
superior
that.
brine rat.
Oh.
Oh no.
technically,
that'd be
superior skeletal wyverns, they're technically a Slayer creature.
yeah. Well, they do have a slightly superior version. Well, the
What,
wyverns.
Vorkath?
Well,
He's a dragon.
He's a skeletal dragon.
Dragon.
Or a zombie dragon.
Front legs, dragon. No front legs, no dragon.
Ask the lore guy.
That is
he will give you
correct.
the
There's
specifics
a-
on
Dude,
that.
Ed killing it.
big wyvern dragon.
I mean, technically he only has one front leg, but that's because the other fell off. He did have it before.
Chat makes a good point. Gargoyles also have a superior. They have a boss.
Yeah, double superior. Yeah.
We're going to add more bosses to the game than we already
You
have.
get a boss, you get a boss. Everyone gets a boss.
Can't wait for the Turoth boss,
I mean, we're taking the piss out of the Turoth, but it's like part of the Slayer cape animation. We should probably show it some love.
Yeah.
I feel like it's important that.
You're going to show the Turoth some love. So we've got about 5 minutes left, and I wanted to do something slightly different where we do
Oh,
some
no.
quick. Yeah, oh no.
No.
We do some quick fire round questions to get
I like that idea. Let's get it.
to know the people on the sofa, but also to get some really funny clip-worthy moments for everyone on social.
Oh God.
There we go.
You could tell this section was made
Yeah.
by a CM.
Yeah, you could tell this was made by a CM. So I'm going to go around the sofa. Everyone has to answer the same question, and we have to try to get as many answers as possible
Oh no.
and as many questions as possible before the stream ends.
Anarchy.
No pressure. We'll start with West. And then move around.
Okay, good.
Pressure.
So what project are you currently working on?
I'm currently working on the Sepulchre.
Same. Sepulchre.
Well, we kind of touch all of them. All of them.
That's cheating. The Sins of a Father quest for Darkmire.
Tutorial and early game improvements.
How many old school RuneScape accounts do you have?
If anyone says more than 3, they get a point.
2.
3.
2.
Just one.
I suppose 3. But...
Whoa! Lenny's turn.
2 that I ever play. God knows how many from back in the day.
I was going to say I have.
I mean, including ones from back in the day, like 100, but only one I actually use.
I got 2 main old school ones, but I did try and make a PvP at one point, and then just gave up because I'm terrible.
You shouldn't say that.
Well, I'm terrible.
That you're terrible at PvP. You could at least try, you
I
know.
mean, I did. That's what I was.
If you could add anything into the game right now, what would it be?
Oh.
What would I add? Working high scores. If anyone says that, they get 5 points.
No pressure.
I'd finish off the reworks for Grand.
PVM achievement diaries.
Right now, I'd want to release the clan system right now with really cool kind of clan
You know what? That would have. I guess that would actually have more priority at said 2 for swing.
versus clan features, like
Well,
an
those
in-game
points were to
automated ladder rather than relying on like
I'll just give
meat ladders.
everyone.
It's a
Points to
quest,
think up.
and it involves sand, and I'm not going to tell you anymore because I don't want to spoil it, but I already know what it is.
I have a hand in the sand too.
My favourite.
Let's go with Soul Wars. Let's do it.
Bring it. Do you own any pets in the game? If so, how many?
Oh, I,
If anyone, all right, so pets. I don't like skilling pets. Skilling pets don't count as actual pets. PVM pets, however, are a fantastic idea. One of the best updates that RuneScape has ever had. Any of the mods say 4 or more, they get a point. If they say more than 10, they get 3 points.
I've got 2, I think. I got Skirtos and I got a beaver on leagues, and then I got like a couple of herons.
Imagine having so many pets you can't even.
Hold on. So he named all skilling pets.
In the game? If so, how many?
Oh, I've got 2, I think. I got Skirtos and I got a beaver on leagues, and then I got like a couple of herons.
Imagine having so many pets you can't remember how many you've got.
just lose track of
It's a hard life.
And a pet rock, obviously. And a couple of cats.
I mean, if Rye was on the sofa, it would have just been one. But
It's unfortunate.
I have 9.
Oh, yeah.
God, 0, but I think I'm overrate on Vorkath and Zulrah.
do you have a cat? Like a in-game cat? Not. I know you have one in real life.
I think so.
Maybe that
I need
counts.
to check my bank. I'm
Kind
not
of.
Welsh.
I might have sold us some death runes.
Just a rock and the cat.
I think I've got
And a fishbowl.
a cat, a rock, and can't forget the clockwork cat.
Oh.
All right, good on Husky there.
What do you think is the memeiest item drop you could get in Old School?
The meme-iest? Like, I need that question again.
What do you think is the memeiest item drop you could get in Old?
That's a brand new sentence that has never been said in human history before. I don't even know what I would give as an answer for that either. What is the memeiest drop you could get? I don't know.
Old School.
The-
Memeiest. Like, it's a meme drop.
You had to
I
explain
don't
it.
know. Is it?
Like a terrible drop.
I don't know. That's a strange question.
All right, Wes gets a point for calling it a strange question.
I suppose anything I don't want. I suppose if I got a duplicate, that'd be kind of annoying. But
I think at this point, the rune sword from God Wars, people get really upset over that for no reason. But
you don't.
Okay, the year is 2005. You're killing Calphite Queen. It takes like 2 or 3 of you in Verax, and you have to kind of restock after every trip because it's so hard to do.
I like the preface here that he's got with this introduction to his answer.
Then
Gets a
you
point.
see something on the floor.
Oh, it's the red d'hide body.
Not the Dragon Chain body, it's a red high top.
Oh.
That one sticks out to me.
That
Point
is
for
fair.
I
swing.
do like it when Vorkath delivers the loot and gives you not 1 but 2 Wrath Talismans.
I'm quite a fan of just the acne potion from the Gauntlets chest.
Oh, yeah, actually, no, I've changed the cabbage from Theatre of Blood.
Change your mind.
Just because of that first day when Boaty got it.
Oh, that was great.
If your tube account had 1 JMod power, what would you choose?
What was that?
Oh, that was great.
If your tube account had 1 JMod power, what would you choose?
Tube account. What the hell is that? Is that like your normal actual account that you actually play, not your JMod account? Gonna be the okay. All right. Thank you for clarifying. Okay. I would probably say, anyone that says like ability to generate an unlimited amount of items gets 2 points. That's what I would do.
And why?
I'll just teleport anywhere.
Weak. You can already teleport anywhere as it is.
Just mod telly.
That's the easiest answer. I find myself accidentally trying to do it on my main account. Like, oh, I can't do that anymore.
Teleporting.
Yeah.
You choose that as
You
well.
have no power here.
Probably telly or rotten potato, and then have all the powers.
Do you not like the idea that you could just open your bank anywhere? Does that?
Well,
If you can
potato.
teleport anywhere, you can just
Oh,
teleport
that's
to your
true.
bank.
Yeah, but opening up the bank anywhere bypasses the need to teleport to a bank to do it. So, therefore, the answer of bank is better.
What about just adding NPCs anywhere? Cause mayhem.
Go ahead, Lenny.
Give.
Just give yourself.
Go on,
Well,
bank.
Yeah, all that.
Is that
Okay. When I say T,
like just give yourself items? Oh yeah, it is. All right. Lenny gets 2 points there.
Tebow.
Oh no.
What is the first word that comes to your mind?
Farming guild.
Yeah.
That's 2 words, but
Yeah, farming guild. That's, whatever. He's taking it.
Let's see. So the question is
Mind.
farming.
Okay. When I say Tebow,
Oh no.
what is the first word that comes to your mind?
Farming
broken or overpowered. Anyone that says that gets
guild.
Yeah.
That's 2 words, but
Yeah, farming
or strong.
guild. That's, whatever.
Anything that points to how incredibly powerful it is.
He's taking it.
West.
I missed something.
Sorry.
There.
Overpowered.
Like I know that he it's not on the inside joke.
oh, he's getting serious now.
Serious answer.
Spawn.
What is your most forehead moment in Old School?
Well, I actually dropped 1 million feathers yesterday fishing on my phone and I didn't realize it. That's my most recent one.
Oh, wait, playing the game?
Playing, yeah.
Because we just covered the one where you worked on it.
Find something new. I don't know. I think I died 2 or 3 times back to back on leagues to the Hespori because I just completely forgot how terrible I was compared to my main account. So that was kind of stupid.
My first live Zuck attempt, I tagged the ranger, pre-ranged, tagged the major, didn't pre-mage, wondered why I died.
I just started playing again in 2015. I was training my fire making on a PvP world in Falador Castle. I just got in from the pub. I had a few situations.
A good place to fire make. That was one. Yeah, good one.
Drink.
Is that your excuse?
Yeah, that is my excuse.
Okay.
And I had just on my laptop 1 tab old school and 1 tab Netflix. Someone came on and was like, "Hey, I just PK'd this. Do you want to buy it from me?" I was like, "Yeah, cool, all right." Took the cash stack out, went to the trade window, hit accept, then watched Netflix. Kind of forgot I was in a trade, and by that point I'd been kind of walked out of the castle, frozen, and I watched myself die. I was like, "Oh man!" And I woke up with a hangover and.
Yep. That's an actual good story where like these other one like, oh, I died trying to kill this bot. Nah. That's a good one.
You have to like go all the way back to a slightly foolish child playing RuneScape, and that guy comes on and he goes, "Hey, did you know you type your password backwards? It doesn't hide it." Oh, really? Shit.
I mean, I wouldn't even know how to type my password backwards. Like, so good on people that actually know how to type it backwards.
I think I've got a screenshot on my Twitter even of in the space of a single chat box. Congratulations, you've got 50 fire making. You take a ship and sail to Korend. Oh dear, you are dead. You have fallen as a hardcore Iron Man. that was
All right.
rough.
There we go.
Good job.
I like that one.
So we've got one last question. Which JMod do you think would be difficult to beat in a PvP?
Are they meaning like real life or in RuneScape?
What, Archie?
Probably mod curse.
I'm going curse. I think Archie's had his day.
Oh shit.
I mean, I mean, I'm terrible, so I'm sure most people can defeat me. But
I think it's the person you least expect. I think it's actually
My answer, and it's only because he actually fucking killed me on stream, and I lost my fighter fucking torso. Ronan drop. Oh, why am I walking? Did I run out of run energy? The hell? Is like, dude, Ronan was streaming one day, and he was doing some PvP, and I said, let's get at it. Me versus. I lost my fire cape as well too. This was back before like you could pick up like my shit was just gone. So Ronan killed me, and I lost fire cape and torso. One of the most embarrassing things ever.
mod Acorn.
I think it's got to be between Curse, Sween, and Nasty, because I know the three of you are
Yeah.
quite involved.
During the LMS playtest, when we re-released LMS,
Ozil, can you
Nasty
restate
was
that?
the person. I came in second place, but he
Had to
came in
refresh
first
the
place. I
chat.
couldn't defeat him. Super difficult. But yeah, it might be the person you least expect. So we are out of time.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
There's still lots of questions on here. Maybe we'll bring them back to the next
Oh,
one.
one more question.
One more question. Okay.
All right, this is going to be the deciding answer here. Got Ed, Sween, and Husky all within 2 points.
The question that we've got here is, what is your biggest in-game pet peeve?
Oh, my biggest in-game pet peeve is when a fourth person joins the Rune Drag world. There's already 3 people there. It's full. Just hop. Just do it. Come on. Do it. Or when you're killing Necreals for Slayer and someone tries looting your stuff. No, dude, just no. That my biggest pet peeves. Ooh, those are not fun. Anyone that says that, if one of the 3 guys here competing for the win have that as their answer, they automatically win.
No. No, that's a
That's a
minute
loaded
to think
question.
about, yeah. My mind's gone
No
blank.
one knows. This is
When you-
why we
when-
didn't
when you
ask the question.
So when
on.
you say
6
pet
o'clock.
peeve, do you mean like something I'd remove or?
Maybe something you'd remove, something
Oh,
you
there's,
hate
there's, there's,
about
there's
it.
too many. I hate everything. I'm a really hateful person. I delete Nightmare Zone first, probably though. Then Winter Todd.
But that's your thing.
We all make mistakes.
All right, he gets a point for saying
Then
Winter Todd was a
then the
mistake.
blowpipe. Then the Twisted Bow. What else would I delete? I'd delete everything. I'd delete so
There's
much.
a
I would
reason.
nerf
What would
everything
be
into the
left?
ground.
Would you delete the players though?
To be honest, after I finish deleting everything, there probably won't be any left. They'd all hate me and all leave.
It's like, we'll just start 07 all over again. Let's
Yeah.
hit the restart button.
I think my biggest pet peeve is the nothing drop on the RDT. It is just the most annoying thing when you go through the effort to kill a boss and just no loot.
it is quite trolling.
Not necessarily the game itself, but more like the old infrastructure and how bespoke it was. Like a lot of the stuff we use was kind of created bespoke just for our game, and we can't, because of that, like modern equivalents might have been developed by, I don't know, companies like Amazon when it comes to like web hosting, but we can't just port it over because the gals really wanted to do things really secretly and by themselves, which is great. They did an awesome job, but it means we're always playing catch up on stuff like infrastructure.
I think just getting wherever you're going on a Slayer
Or if someone talks about the high scores. I mean, that was almost in that ball, but
task, something like that, and having forgotten one item that you need.
So you just delete Slayer.
I didn't say I
Can't forget an item if you don't need to kill the
But it's a pet
monster.
peeve. It's a pet peeve.
More times than I like to admit, I'll go to kill the gargoyles and I'll just turn out retaliate on and I'll wait and I'll look back at my screen. There's a gargoyle sitting with like just 1 hit point and I haven't killed any yet. And I'm like, rock hammer.
So that's it. We'll go back to the announcements just so that anyone who missed them before. Darkmire poll results.
I mean, it ends in 1 minute. Someone's got to try to get this win here, or it's going to be a tie between Ed and Queen.
The poll's closed. You can check them on the website or in the game poll booth. They all passed, so no surprises. We also have the March Gazette that was launched today. You can do the command !Gazette.
It can't really because it's linked to the February one. We didn't update that beforehand.
Oh, I thought you fixed it.
We asked them to.
That might be the tiebreaker.
On the Old School website, it's the very, very top post. So oldschool.runescape.com, and it's the March Gazette. And it's all over our social channels as well.
Perfect. And hopefully
Ed, you got your last chance. Try to make it a
Before we
tie.
end, sorry. I saw just a couple people at the end talking about how we're kind of ruining the Q&A by having fun. I really enjoyed
Oh
that.
no, not fun.
No, the last 5 minutes of fun.
It's also not just like the last 5 minutes of Q&A. It's pretty much like the last 5 minutes of our working day. So I quite enjoyed having the ability to have fun on live stream after we spent all day working. So thank you very much for bringing that
You're
segment.
welcome.
I thought it was quite cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you all just got schooled.
I'm sorry.
What's fun is
Oh, and I guess then that's it. The JMod of the week.
Hang on, but you're
Is-
still nowhere near.
So JMod of the week is Sween. And he gets that win. So, it was a little back and forth battle between them. Ed, Sween, and Husky were really kind of going back and forth with position throughout. And, once it got towards the end here, when it came to the tie, with Sween correcting the issue with the exclamation mark Gazette linking to the improper one, him to call that out real quick, get the proper correction in. I mean, it came down to the tiebreaker, and that to me is the tiebreaker to give Sween the win. Stopping misinformation and then telling us where we could actually find the proper Gazette as well. That's the tiebreaker that he needs to be able to win it. So, JMod of the week, Sween.